How do your products use or challenge conventions, and how do they affect social groups or issues?
Well, for the most part, I think we followed conventions a lot, but here and there we kind of challenged them a bit. I think for the most part, we didn't follow conventions at the end. We challenged it during the credits. We decided not to have rolling credits, and instead we kind of dipped the credits to black, and then we cut to the next credit, which is not usually seen in a lot of films. And then also we decided the best example that we used to follow conventions was we used high angle shots to imply that Alex was being watched throughout the whole time. And then representing social groups or issues, we try to focus on two groups or issues. The first one was the issue of loneliness, and then the second one was the issue of romantic relationships. So for the first one, we showed Alex throughout the whole time as he was lonely and how he became delusional. And then for the second one, we focused on romantic relationships. So we showed Ricky and Tati having trouble throughout their relationship, but clearly, as you can see at the end of the film, they were never actually there in the physical present in Alex's world. So we decided to show them and represent that social group of couples that fight, which is actually quite often in society.
How do the elements of your production work together to create a sense of branding?
So for the most part, you and me, we had trouble selecting a color scheme for the project, but we ended up deciding that blues and greens would work best in the end, because that's really the color that's present in almost every shot of the film. Either a heavy presence of blue or a heavy presence of green. If you look back, like I said before, almost every shot has some presence of blue or green, and at the end of the day, the short film relies mostly on the setting for mood and tone to create that post-apocalyptic world where no one else lives. And since the short film is based on the sci-fi genre, we found that these types of films rely heavily on the setting and the world that they are in. So if you look, for example, at A Quiet Place, that movie focuses a lot on the world and how the family has to survive in that world. So it's a very setting heavy. So we decided to use blue and green to create that sense of branding for that type of world that we created for In the Back of Beyond.
How do your products engage with your audience, and how would they be distributed as real media products?
So at the beginning, during the planning stage, we decided to include a main character that was around our age, since we wanted to focus on a film that targets the 18 to 25-year-old age range. And the reason is because sci-fi movies and horror movies target towards the younger audience as opposed to the older audience, which the older audiences tend to watch musicals and those types of films. So we chose to target that type of audience, and the reason why we chose to include such a young main character was because we felt that the target audience could easily relate to that type of character. And going back to the last question that relates to loneliness, we feel that a lot of Gen Z and millennials in the day of social media, which is today, they feel lonely a lot of times behind their screens. So we felt we could really tap into that area of loneliness within In the Back of Beyond, which I feel like we did pretty well.
How would they be distributed as real media products?
So we chose to distribute it on YouTube Red, and the reason is because we wanted to tap into a new market. We found that a lot of business models are successful when they tap into a new market that hasn't been touched. So we decided to go with YouTube Red because we noticed that a lot of times on YouTube Red, miniseries are released on YouTube Red, not a lot of short films. And since a lot of Gen Z uses YouTube Red on daily, about 1.5 million people, we felt that we could not distribute it for free, but release it on YouTube Red, where people can do the 1 month subscription for free and try it out and see our short film, and then become paid members, which eventually would bring us money in the long run.
How did you integrate technologies like software, hardware, and online in this project?
So we used a bunch of different types of technology to get to the final product, which was in the back of Beyond. So during the planning phase, we used Google Docs a lot, so we could share documents and work together simultaneously on the same document, kind of like collaboratively. And then we used Google software as well, Blogger, to document our process along the way, and so kind of we could like refer back to it as well, in a chronological fashion. For the website, we use Wix. It's an online-based website creator software type thing to design our website. And at first, it's kind of tricky to figure out, but then you get the hang of it. So we uploaded pictures, changed text, and I feel like we really created a professional website. And for technology, we mostly use Apple laptops, a Canon DSLR to film, your Nikon DSLR to take pictures for behind the scenes, a drone, and a Tascam to record audio, and lastly a Ronin to record a couple of shots that needed stabilization. But I think for the most part, the internet played a major role because that's where we distributed and planned in the back of Beyond. And I think if it weren't for the internet, we wouldn't have been able to do a lot of our research and producing and planning for the entire short film. And lastly, we also used Adobe Premiere Pro CC and Photoshop to get our final products. Photoshop for the postcard, and Premiere Pro to edit it and color correct and do all the audio for the in the back of Beyond.